Define a security. It will be helpful to have a definition of security in the context of the exam. If you look up the definition of a security, you find several different, but very similar, definitions. For this course, we are going to use this definition of a security, an intangible financial asset that may be bought, sold, or gifted between persons. It may be represented by a paper certificate or held in an electronic record. Here is a legal definition based on a Supreme Court ruling from 1946. You are not likely to see that specific point on the exam, but do recognize that a legal definition exists. You should also know that there are securities regulators who make and enforce rules regarding securities. Here is a list of some, not all, of the things that are securities that appear on the SIE exam and will be covered in this course. Stocks and other equity securities, bonds and other debt securities, mutual funds, limited partnerships, options, municipal-backed securities. It might be helpful to recognize a few things that are not securities that may appear on the exam. Commodities, oil, orange juice, pork bellies, etc. Precious metals, gold, silver, etc. Currency, actual money, both US dollars and a foreign currency, futures, derivatives of commodities, precious metals, and currency, a personal residence. Take note. There is often some confusion about the difference between commodities and securities. While a security is a financial asset, a commodity is generally a hard or tangible asset such as beef, orange juice, or oil. Identify the basic securities. The two most common types of securities you will encounter on the exam are stocks and bonds. We call these the basic types because you will see them often on the exam, and most of the other securities that you will learn about are made up of stocks and bonds or derive their value from the price of stocks or bonds. Stocks represent equity, which means that the investor holding the security has an ownership interest in something, usually a corporation. Expect to see the words stock and equity used interchangeably on the exam, but note that there are other types of equity besides stocks. Bonds represent debt. EY are like an IOU that an investor holds. Investor is owed something, usually money, and the person that owes, debtor, will have to pay according to the terms of the IOU. You will likely see the words bonds and debt securities used interchangeably on the exam, but again note that there are several types of debt securities besides bonds. On the exam, when you see these basic securities mentioned, remember that stocks represent equity and bonds represent debt. We will explore both equity and debt securities in depth later in the course. Common stock. Of the equity securities, common stocks are the most common. You will see more questions on common stocks than on any other security on the exam. An investor that holds common stock owns a piece of a corporation. If every company is different, all common stocks share certain characteristics. When you have completed this lesson, you will be able to accomplish the following. LO1.C Recall the basic characteristics of common stock. LO1.D Identify the classifications of common stock. LO1.C Recall the basic characteristics of common stock. Purchasing shares of common stock in a company allows individual investors to participate in the company's success. Investors can benefit by selling shares that increase in price, capital appreciation, and by sharing in company earnings through a distribution of profits called dividends. 1 unit of a stock is called a share. A company issues, sells, stock to raise capital, money. Investors who buy the stock are buying a share of ownership in the company. SA investors are called stockholders or shareholders. EY are the company's owners. Each share of stock entitles its owner to a portion of the company's earnings and a vote in major management decisions. In most corporations, the stockholders regularly elect individuals to a board of directors, BOD or board, to oversee the company's business. Normally this is done at the annual stockholders meeting. By electing a board, stockholders have a say in the company's management but are not involved in the day-to-day details of its operations. On issues 100 shares of stock, each share represents an identical 1100 or 1 ownership position in the company. An investor who owns 10 shares of stock would own 10 of the company. An investor who owns 50 shares of stock would own 50 of the company. Identify the classifications of common stock. Common stock can be classified as authorized, issued, outstanding, or treasury. Authorized stock. A corporation is a legal being. Corporations are formed through the filing of articles of incorporation or corporate charter. Each charter is filed with the state in which the corporation chooses to be domiciled. In many respects, a corporation can do the same things as a natural person. What a corporation can do that an individual can't is raise money by issuing securities. A corporate charter specifies the number of shares the company is authorized to issue. It is a decision made by the founders of the business at the time the charter is written. In most cases, a company does not issue all the authorized shares. It issues enough of them to raise #scient capital for its needs at the time. A company may sell the remaining authorized shares in the future or use them for other purposes. If the company wants to issue more shares than are authorized, the charter must be amended through a stockholder vote. Issued stock. Issued stock is authorized stock that has been sold to investors. Those investors have bought the stock, and the company has received the money. Authorized but unissued stock does not carry the rights of issued shares and is not considered in determining a company's value, called capitalization or market cap. Outstanding stock. Outstanding stock includes all shares that a company has issued and that are in the hands of investors. Isn't all issued stock outstanding? Sometimes it is, but other times it is not. Sometimes a corporation buys back its outstanding stock, and that stock is considered issued but no longer outstanding. Treasury stock. Treasury stock is stock a corporation has issued and then later bought back. A corporation can hold this stock indefinitely or can reissue it or retire it. Treasury stock does not carry the rights of outstanding common shares, such as voting rights and the right to receive dividends. For that reason, treasury stock is not considered in determining a company's value. Lesson 1.3, Types of Common Stock. One of the regular ways of identifying types of common stock is by the size of the corporation. Its measurement is called market capitalization. Another way is based on the price of a share of stock, where very low-priced stocks are called penny stocks. In this lesson, we will define these different types of common stock. When you have completed this lesson, you will be able to accomplish the following. LO1.E Identify the types of common stock. LO1.F Recall penny stock rules. LO1.E Identify the types of common stock. Common stocks are often categorized by the size of the corporation. Its measurement is called market capitalization or just market cap. A corporation's market cap is determined by multiplying the number of outstanding shares by the current market value, CMV, of a share, outstanding shares. CMV. Large cap stocks. Large cap companies are the largest companies. SA can be rapidly growing technology companies or big, long-established firms. SA tend to be companies with names that are familiar to you. Stocks of large cap companies that have a long history of steady dividend payments are often called blue-chip stocks. Large cap stocks have a market capitalization in excess of $10 billion. Mid-cap stocks. Mid-cap companies are still large by most standards, just not as huge as the large-cap companies. A company that is too large to be a small cap, but not large enough to be a large cap, is a mid-cap. EY tend to reflect characteristics of both small and large caps, as you might expect. Stocks of mid-cap companies have a market cap from $2 billion to $10 billion. Small-cap stocks. Smallest companies that are still large enough to be listed on national exchanges are small caps. EY tend to be oriented toward growth and produce very few dividends. Small cap stocks have market capitalization of $250 million to $2 billion. Below small caps are microcaps. Recall penny stock rules. Penny stocks. A penny stock is an unlisted, not listed on a U.S. stock exchange, security trading at less than $5 per share. Equity securities defined as penny stocks are considered highly speculative. In this light, Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) rules require that customers be given A copy of a risk disclosure document before their initial transaction in a penny stock. E-broker-dealer, BD, must receive a signed and dated acknowledgement from the customer that the document has been received. E-penny stock disclosure document fully describes the risks associated with penny stock investments. Regardless of activity in the customer's account, if the account holds penny stocks, BDs must provide a monthly account statement to the customer. E-account statement must indicate the market value and number of shares for each penny stock held in the account, as well as the issuer's name. Penny stock cold calling rules. A BD's representative may contact a potential customer about purchasing penny stocks. This would be a solicitation to buy, such as those occurring during a cold call. SEC rules state that in this situation, the representative must first determine suitability on the basis of information about the customer's financial situation and objectives. A customer must sign and date the suitability statement before any initial penny stock trades, buying and selling, may be placed. In addition, the BD must disclose the name of the penny stock, the number of shares to be purchased, a current quotation, the current price, and the amount of commission that the firm and the representative will receive. Established customers are exempt from the suitability statement requirement but not from the disclosure requirements. An established customer is someone who has held an account with the BD for at least 1 year, and has made a deposit of funds or securities, or has made at least 3 penny stock purchases of D-errant issuers on D-errant days. Take note. The provisions of the penny stock rules apply only to solicited transactions, such as those that might occur during a cold call. Unsolicited transactions, those not recommended by the BD or the registered representative, are exempt from these rules on suitability and disclosure.